in the class to introduce a concept or give them a piece of information or introduce a vocabulary item, an expression, for example, that they don't know. So oftentimes I open these brackets, and one of the brackets I usually open regards this, constraint on the existence of three sounds word initially in English. In English, there are strict conditions for having consonant, consonant, consonant at the beginning of the word. So when you have three consonants, if I ask you, can you give me a word in English that starts with three consecutive consonants, yeah, but with the first consonant not being an S, a S sound. Give me a word that has three consonants at the beginning, but the condition is that the first one should not be a S sound. This S. Unlikely. Impossible, let's say. Not unlikely, impossible. Now, to soften this a bit, give me a word in English where you may have S at the beginning, but the second consonant should not be a P or a T or a K. It should not be a voiceless stop. Again, you will not be able to produce a word that starts with three consonants, the first one being S, no problem, but the second one, it has to be P, T, or K. You can't. Now, we can soften it even more by saying that, yeah, give me a word that starts with three consonants. You may have S at the beginning. You may have P, T, K as a second element, but the third one should not be L or R. Again, you will not be able to do that. And this illustrates very clearly how languages can impose these constraints on their sound systems. Okay, sound clusters, of course, yes. Okay, are there probably questions that you think you need to ask, or should we start with the introduction of, these concepts relating to phonetics and phonology? Are Moroccan Arabic and Standard Arabic two independent varieties? If yes, could we explain the case where Moroccan speakers alternate between two or yeah. That's a very interesting question. So many students at different levels confuse Standard Arabic with Classical Arabic. The fact of so you're talking about Moroccan Arabic. Sorry. I thought that the question was on Moroccan Arabic and Standard Arabic, two independent varieties. Yes, they are two independent varieties, despite so much similarity that exists between Moroccan Arabic and Standard Arabic. What happens to Moroccan Arabic is that it has undergone a lot of changes due to contact with different languages over the centuries, but if you analyze Arabic, a linguistic analysis of Arabic would reveal, an Amazigh substratum there. There are a lot of words, for example, in Moroccan Arabic that are traced to an Amazigh origin. There are certainly syntactic, features of Moroccan Arabic that are Amazigh. So this mingling between Moroccan Arabic and Amazigh has made of this dialect, that is to say Moroccan Arabic, a unique variety. So they are related probably historically. We refer to it in sociolinguistics, the historical affiliation, and when they exist, that's one thing about them. But they differ in the fact that Moroccan Arabic has the feature of vitality, that is to say, it has native speakers. It's a mother tongue, while Standard Arabic does not have native speakers. Okay, so it's not the mother tongue in the linguistic sense of the term. You see, so here what we have is what we refer to as a repartition of function, creating a diglossic situation where one variety called by Ferguson as a low variety is used, in family context and with friends in informal situations, while the high variety, in this case, Standard Arabic, is used in contexts that are formal, in sermons, the law court, and so on and so forth. Okay, so the question is, how could we explain the case where Moroccan speakers alternate between the two, even in a formal setting? Now, what happens is, let's face the fact, apart from any sociolinguistic analysis, the mastery of Standard Arabic is in constant decrease. And well, there are different, factors behind this. One of which probably is the fact that people, started, learning other languages like French, English, and maybe other languages like Turkish, like Chinese, like Korean, Japanese, maybe, maybe because the attitude has changed. That's just a personal point of view. It's not based on a study that I conducted. But in any case, there is this fact that competence in Standard Arabic, used to be far better. Is it because people were reading a lot? Highly likely. Is it because people were exposed to more, even media, like the radio and the TV? You could hardly hear someone using Moroccan Arabic. It was Standard Arabic most of the time, even the songs that were, presented. All right, nice. So here, that's the thing. Fine. So our Moroccan Arabic, I hope I have answered this question. There is this, emerging, okay, middle Moroccan Arabic. That's the term that you see the famous Moroccan sociolinguist used. It's the Middle Moroccan Arabic that emerged, where you have a combination of features from Standard Arabic and features from Moroccan Arabic, and this is likely to be produced by intellectuals, by like you don't say tren, you say qitar, for example. They don't say تسناني حتى نجي ولا تسناني حتى نجيك. You say, well, انتظرني. Things like these are more features from Moroccan Arabic. Sometimes the syntax and the morphosyntax is from Arabic. All right, Mustafa Morshid. I don't know what you're talking about. This the pronunciation of throne, t or th. It's a th. All right, but I don't know the context in which you have used these words. Fine. Okay, throne. That is a th, not so you're yeah. Mohammed attempted to give us a word that starts with three consonants, but three consonants in pronunciation. But that's phonology. Graphology, you have the graphemes. I mean, at the level of writing, you may have three or four without any problem. Okay, so we talk about, see, Mohammed, we talk about phonemes. We're talking about what is pronounced, what you can hear. In throne, you have th and r. You have the two. You see? The th, the voiceless interdental fricative, and the retroflex liquid. So other than that, you don't have it's not a retroflex liquid. R is what? Is a trill. We call it a trill. All right. Mustafa, take the example of Mexican movies. These are no longer translated into Yeah. That's true. That's true. At the moment, at one point in time, these soap operas were translated into Moroccan Arabic to the extent that there is a joke about someone who was asked what is the official language of Mexico, and they said Arabic. Why? Because they see that on TV. Now, with the Turkish movies, and they are mostly translated in Moroccan or into Moroccan Arabic. Great, nice. I think it's fine for the moment. Just let me know, ladies and gentlemen, if it's time to move to the discussion of phonetics and phonology, the topic for today. It's a pity that my students are asking me, to give them courses, online courses in phonology, but in phonology and also in syntax. But I see that only 20 students, 20 of you, most of the people watching me here are not my students, unfortunately. Okay, never mind. So, yes, professor says, Nathalie Leblanc. So let's start, please, with the distinction, with phonology. Let me issue, I will not call it a warning, but okay. Let me give you a piece of advice. If I have people who are starting, making their foot into phonology, or if I have S5 students who are, who take the phonology class, If you want to be good at phonology, you have to be good at phonetics first. It takes some time. I mean, at the beginning it's not easy. I mean, to learn, the description of consonants and description of vowels. It starts from here, ladies and gentlemen. Doing phonology with not enough background in phonetics is just an effort that is wasted. Why? It's because phonology is heavily based on phonetics. Take, for example, distinctive features. How would you say a minus voiced when you don't know what the difference is between voiced and voiceless? How can you say or talk about plus back or minus back for vowels when you don't know what a high vowel is, what a low vowel is? Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are in the course of preparing for phonology, because they have an exam this semester, for example, I strongly advise you, I repeat, I strongly advise you to do something with phonetics. It's easy, just to cut to the heart of it. Phonetics, phonetics, in phonetics, what you probably need to know that without any question, this may be enough, maybe enough. At least you will not have a big problem. You will not have a problem. Learn about consonant description, vowel description. For the syllable, usually professors reiterate these lessons on syllable structure and what an ultimate syllable is, a penultimate syllable is, and an anti-penultimate syllable. For example, an onset, a nucleus, and a coda, and a rhyme. All these are often repeated in phonology from my proper experience. But the point is that even if the professor re-explains these characteristics of consonants and characteristics of vowels, you will never be a good phonology student if you don't do the work yourself. Consult the internet, consult any handout, any textbooks. And then when you have a book, you go straight to consonant and vowel descriptions. These are, let me call them prerequisites. And when we say prerequisite, it means that if you don't have it, you cannot go to the other course. What explains the plight of so many students in phonology, because phonology is very easy and it's a pleasure to do phonology. It's really nice, when you know how to do it. But doing this is contingent on you knowing the prerequisite, which is phonetics. So if you do not receive enough training in phonetics, you are unlikely. This is unfortunate, and I will let you know that this is unfortunate, and that you need to do something with it. If you have not received enough training in phonology, if not made enough effort, in phonology, I said, in phonetics, and if you have not made any effort of your own in order to understand, these basics, you are unlikely to succeed in phonology. Fortunately, it is easy to catch up. It's very easy to catch up. No worries. An exercise a day will keep the problem away in phonology. Fine? So that's the idea. Good. Now, by the way, there is this, this is a message to you. You can start with this from tomorrow on. This is called the, now for phonetics, just go to the cardinal vowel system by Daniel Jones. The cardinal vowel system. If you think that you cannot do that on your own, and if you would like me to have a short live session for this, just let me know so I can come and explain things with examples, etc. So, but that's a very good beginning. If you have that, it means if you learn, if you understand this chart, it means you will not have a problem in phonology when it comes to processes or rules that affect vowels. For consonants, you do need to know three things. You need to know about the place of articulation of a given sound. The voicing first, whether it's voiced or voiceless. You definitely need to know that, and it has to be automatic. All right. Number two, you need to know about the place of articulation. We talked about that in some earlier videos, and I'm ready to bring these up again, in this session or another session. So you need to know place of articulation. You need to know also about manner of articulation. When you know these things in phonetics, then you are well prepared to do phonology. Do it for even if you present if even if you are the first into the classroom and you do the exercises without enough knowledge of phonetics, اسمح لي, no phonology. That's all. Because phonology is a very phonetic field. Because phonetics and phonology both deal with the sound system of a given language. Okay? Both of them do, not of a given language, but both of them work with the sound system, with the sounds, let's say, with speech sounds. But phonetics, is a result for the description of these sounds, and phonology is looking at the function of these speech sounds. But for the description, it's the same. All right, good. Now, this moves me into the discussion. Thank you, Si Mustafa, for suggesting those books. But let me make life easier. And this, yeah, those books for the long run, for the ones who would like to enjoy phonetics and phonology because they intend to conduct research on it later on. But for those of you who are, because the exams are drawing near, it's not easy to read a book in order to understand phonetics and then go to phonology. Let's be practical. Just go to the consonant description, vowel description, and then you go and read your lessons in phonology. Okay, good. So let me start so first things first. Let me first talk about the difference between phonetics and phonology. And phonetics and phonology both deal with what we call sound systems. It's the objective study is the sound system. But what is a sound system? What is a speech sound first? I'm using sound system. I'm sorry, it's not sound system. It's speech sounds. I repeat, I redefine the ground that phonetics and phonology share is the speech sound. The two of them are concerned with the analysis of the speech sound. What is a speech sound? Okay. In order to understand what a speech sound is, we need to understand what a sound is. So a sound is anything that you can hear. For example, when I clap my hand, this is a sound. When I cough, that's a sound. And so on and so forth. However, there are sounds like f, d. These are sounds like a clap of a hand. A clap of a hand is a sound. Th is a sound. But what's the difference between the two? The difference is that the clapping of the hand is a sound, but not a speech sound. And th is a sound, and it is a speech sound. Why speech sound? Why is it a speech sound? Because we can use it when we want to communicate verbally, when we want to produce language. When you speak to someone, you don't say p, t, and then you add this, because this is not a speech sound. But you can say p, pa, and then t, and then you can continue. I'm just thinking up examples that are hypothetical. But the fact of the matter is that sounds can be normal sounds, but they can be speech sounds, non-speech sounds versus speech sounds. Safi, we know what speech sound is now. So the object of study for phonetics is what? Is speech sounds. The object of study for phonology is speech sounds. But they study them in different ways. كيفاش in different ways? How in different ways? Yes, in different ways, because the job of phonetics is to take a sound, let's say t, and describe it and give us as much detail as possible about it. That's it. Phonetics only describes the speech sound and classifies them. And so let me use just describe it. It provides us with information about the speech sound. That's the domain of phonetics. Does phonetics, for example, provide us with information about speech sound in a specific language? No. We will come to this. So if you have a sound t, phonetics tells us that the sound t is voiceless because there is no vibration here at the level of the throat. It tells us that the sound t is produced by making a close contact between the tip of the tongue and the alveolar ridge. That's the place of articulation. And it tells us that there is a blockage of the air when you say t, because the air does not flow. So this is a stop. In other words, phonetics tells us that t is a voiceless alveolar stop. And it does this for all speech sounds, for all consonants and for all vowels. Of course, vowels and consonants are described using different criteria. Now, this is as far as phonetics is concerned. Phonetics deals with description. So it describes and it stops there. Phonology comes, phonology comes, and whether we like it or not, makes use of what phonetics did. I mean, it takes the descriptions and phonology is concerned with speech sounds and the way, look at this, and the way these speech sounds are used in different languages. I repeat, phonetics is concerned with the description of speech sounds, of vowels and consonants. It tells us, for example, that E is a high front and rounded vowel, and U in French is a high, front rounded vowel, and so on and so forth. And it tells us that Ch is a voiceless alveopalatal affricate, and so on and so forth. Phonology comes and tells us something. Let me give you an example of T. Just as a concrete example for the students who still confuse phonetics and phonology. Here's an example of the job of phonetics and phonology. Both of them are concerned with speech sounds. Both of them are concerned with T, our example, T. Phonology is concerned with this, phonetics is concerned with this. But phonetics does what phonology does not do with T, and vice versa. In other words, phonetics comes to T, takes it and describes it, and it stops. It goes home. Phonology comes and takes T and says that this sound, this sound is aspirated in English, syllable initially. In English, T can become T in words like time, etc. We will come to these details later on. And I'm just giving you an example of how phonetics and phonology differ in what they do with the speech sound, with the same speech sound. Phonetics describes, phonology looks at or shows how the sound behaves in a given language, how a sound is manifested in different languages. A phonologist can also say, while in English the sound T is aspirated syllable initially, in Arabic it does not. In Arabic, we don't have this, good. So this is just a quick, direct, and a concrete example for the students to know the difference between phonetics and phonology. Let's go now back to phonetics, and I will probably answer questions that are here because Mustafa is talking about branches of phonetics. That's true. So phonetics is concerned with there are three sub branches in phonetics. So we have phonetics in language, in linguistics we have phonetics, phonology, morphology, syntax, etc. And in phonetics we have three types. But we do in phonology, what is interesting is the first type, articulator. So the first type, where we describe consonants, as I told you, when we say T is voiceless, alveolar stop, etc. This is called articulatory phonetics, and see Mustafa wrote it here, articulatory phonetics, la phonétique articulatoire. It means that it's the branch of phonetics that deals with how a sound is produced. That's all. The second branch of phonetics is called acoustic phonetics, and it studies the sound when it is pronounced, when it gets out of the mouth and it travels until it reaches the ear. So from here to the ear, this is what acoustic phonetics, it's usually the physics of the sound waves, how they travel, and there are numbers that describe this. We need instruments to do this. We may not need instruments to do articulatory phonetics, but for acoustic phonetics, we need to have machines to do that. Otherwise, we cannot do it just like that, without with its sophisticated machines. And there is the third branch of phonetics, which deals with how the sound gets to the from the ear to the brain until it is understood as a given speech sound, and this is called auditory phonetics. So all in all, in phonetics we have three branches: articulatory phonetics, phonetics, acoustic phonetics, and auditory phonetics. Now that we are interested only in phonology, this is the core part of this live session is for phonology. Let me let the students here, our dear friends here, that what is a prerequisite for phonology is only articulatory phonetics. So if you do articulatory phonetics, then you are fine. By articulate, let me make life even easier by saying that suffice it for you to to know the description of vowels and description of consonants. Consonants, voice, place, manner. Vowels, what is the position of the tongue, how high the tongue is in the oral cavity, and whether there is a lip rounding or not, because U involves lip rounding and U involves lip rounding, A does not involve lip rounding. So if you are equipped with these information that fall within what we refer to as articulatory phonetics, then make sure that your phonology classes will be very easy and the process of understanding the contents of phonology will be streamlined to a large extent. Let me read a few questions before I move to point two. So, Mustafa, okay, thank you. Si Mustafa. Si Mohammed, can you please tell us the difference between acoustic and auditory? I think I did now, Si Mohammed, because I talked about that before I read your question. See, Mustafa Arzouk, it deals with the organization of sounds in languages and how they function. Yeah, that's true in relation to each other. I absolutely agree with you, Sir Zouk. Thank you very much for this contribution. It is nice to see my friend Mohammed Rida Itqan with us here. I'm very happy that you did. Thanks to you because you invited him, I guess. Thank you, Si Mustafa. مرحبا به سي Muhammad Rida Itqan. Thank you. So Abdul Amin, broad versus narrow transcription. Yes, we're coming to that. That's true. Let me answer you very quickly. See, Abdul Amin, broad transcription is usually when you represent phonemes without any phonetic detail. Narrow transcription is when you include details. Usually when you represent an allophone, for example, or when you want to not to miss out on some of the details of a speech sound, you get to the narrow or use narrow transcription. Sisqat Al-Islam, great. You are great too. Thank you so much. Great means maybe he refers to either an answer provided by someone here or he's saying that it's great that we have held this live session. Thank you. So Abdullah Raji, can we say that phonetics describes the phonemic aspect of a sound? No, I'm afraid not, Si Abdullah Raji. Phonetics does not have to do with phonemes at all. Phonetics, you listen, it's not the business of phonetics whether you have a phoneme or not a phoneme. It doesn't have that in mind. Phoneticians don't have that in mind. Phoneticians have in mind a speech sound that a human being has produced, and they go and they provide a physical description for that. That's all. They do not refer to anything like phoneme or the phoneme of a language. No. Even this term is not a phonetic term. The word phoneme is not a phonetic term. You see? So it's not the business of a phonetician whether you have a phoneme there or not. It calls it a speech sound, and when the phonologist comes, and then he will organize this, and he will determine whether it's a phoneme or an allophone or the X and Y are in free variation. You never know, okay? So no, I'm afraid not. See Abdullah Raji. See, Usada Samia Mustafir says acoustic, probably in response to a comment. See Muhammad Rida, it can say delighted to be in such an academic get-together with my dear friend Mustafa Morshi. Thank you very much. And Professor Rabbi, thank you very much. So you are all welcome, and I'm very happy that you have joined us. Okay, so it's as if this live is for Mustafa Morshi and his friends and for my friends. Sorry. I don't know why the university students keep asking me for live sessions of this type, but they don't join. It's ironic, isn't it? Okay, never mind, never mind. Okay, so let's move on to Saad Ali Faqir. I hope you're doing well. Thank you very much for joining us. Okay, thank you. Let's move on to now that we have talked about the three branches of phonetics and the difference between so three branches of phonetics and the difference between phonetics and phonology. But my conclusion, and I insist on that, ladies and gentlemen, I do insist on the fact that students need to know to have some phonetic background. And it's a pity here. And when I teach spoken English, I always warn my students that, well, sometimes I feel I make them overwork, and I have we focus a lot on phonetics, but with the understanding that they will come S4 where they will be introduced to a course, or they have a course where they will take a course called Introduction to Linguistics with a phonetic component and a phonological component. And this will prepare them, for those who will do linguistics, for the course of phonology at the level of S5. It's a pity that so many students are at S5, but they cannot distinguish a voiced and from a voiceless consonant. And again, I reiterate this advice, this sincere advice, that before preparing for phonology, do some phonetics. Reserve a couple of days, 3 days, I don't know, for phonetics, and then go, and you will see that you will discover that you are enjoying phonology. It will not be burdensome. You'll find phonology difficult and technical only because you don't master phonetics. That's the thing. That's the message. All right. Nice, nice. Thank you. Okay, so now let's move on to part two of this live session. This has to do with the fact that when we produce language orally, we do not speak, for example, using sound after sound or word, and then we pause, and we pause, and then we have another word, and then we stop, and then we have another word. That's not the case. So what we have is what we call connected speech, or the speech chain. We refer to this as a speech chain. Okay, so in a speech chain, excuse me, let me have a sip. Thank you. So in a speech chain, what happens? Why am I talking about speech chain? Because theoretically, let's say, let me say in very slow speech, I say it can't be. Let's take this random sentence. It can't be. If we speak with a faster tempo, then we have it can be. It can be, you see? And then an even faster tempo would say it can be. So this is an example attesting to the fact that in connected speech, when words are put together, and especially in fast speech, what happens is that there are, speech sounds undergo modification by virtue of having words juxtaposed with other words, and words do mutually not words but sounds, at the edges of words do inter-influence. The last word from the last consonant or vowel from this word is likely to influence the last consonant of the other word. Sometimes it can delete it altogether. Like it can't be, it can be. Where is the t? It has been swallowed. It has gone. Why? Because of t and k. T is a voiceless stop. K is a voiceless stop. And can has stress. So t belongs to a syllable which is, it can be, there is no stress. And therefore it is, it is lost. Okay? So why am I saying this? I am saying this to make the point that that phonology is relevant, among other things, when we deal with connected speech. Why? Because sounds change their identity so often. So often because sometimes we speak fast, and sometimes there is what we call juxtaposition. That is to say, words are put near other words, and the result is often a change in the consonant. For example, if you have a vowel next to another vowel, then only one vowel will survive, the other one will have to go. In French, when you have, and we have this also in English, let's give the French word, for example. Garçon starts with a G, and garçon. You see, it starts with a G. We say le garçon, le, and then e. So we have a consonant and then vowel, and then we have garçon. But just imagine I have ami au masculin, ami sans e à la fin. Donc, normally, theoretically, I have to have le and then ami. And this juxtaposition with a, because two vowels cannot meet, that's a hiatus. So one of them has to fall. So this is the interest in phonology, ladies and gentlemen. Phonology can also account for changes that are not necessarily due to juxtaposition. Sometimes they are due to stress. Stress, for example. Phonology can tell us, for example, that the sound, for example, can, when it exists in a sentence, when it occurs in a sentence, it becomes can. Yes, I can, but I can be your friend. I can be. Can be. You see? So the a is reduced or reduces to ashva. Why? It's because of the influence of stress. I can be. But when you say I can, stress falls on this syllable where you have can on the a, and then it makes the a strong vowel. When stress shifts, this a shrinks and it becomes only a ashva or ashva, a reduced vowel. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, let me read these two comments, and then I'm neither your friend nor your student. I'm so happy to be with you in this virtual life. Thank you, Sil Ansari. You are always welcome. We are always friends here. We are all friends here. Sorry. Thank you very much. Teacher Saad Ali says, is it true that modern linguistics borrowed a lot from traditional Arabic grammar? Yeah, whether we like it or not, there is always this reference to if there is a feature, for example, that has been studied or that was studied a long time ago, they can refer to that. And there are whole theories. Some theories are built on individual languages because, for example, a language displays a weird characteristic that, for example, a given theory, a recent theory cannot handle. Then a theory that solves this problem, we call this recalcitrant data that cannot be solved. And another theory comes to solve this specific problem. We'll take, of course, obviously, we take concepts from that language. So it's no accident that modern linguistics took from. It's not just from Arabic, but from it's influenced by different traditions, of course. You see. So there is this influence. It's always, it's a fact that people do not, start from scratch. They always need to go back to what has been said before. Perhaps they look at things from a totally different perspective, but okay, they do not forget, the sources. Okay, so they took from different languages, not just Arabic, from Sanskrit, from language, from Latin, there was this influence. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so I close this bracket. خصوص الأرجرومية تم أخذ أمور منها ممكن. Yeah. For Ajaromia, I don't know if you have read it. I read parts of it, and it's really amazing. It requires some intellectual. It's some intellectual capacity to understand it. And nadm, they call it nadm because they give you rules in the form of poems. That's really interesting. Thank you. So, Nathalie Leblanc, also grammatical words are reduced to schwa in connected speech. I do agree with you, Nathalie, because, you have, for example, models and auxiliaries. These are one-syllable words. The reason why they reduce to ashwa is that they are monosyllabic. And sometimes function words are not stressed because people have this tendency of stressing words that are lexical. They have semantic content because after all, when we communicate, we want to deliver a given meaning. Okay, and therefore these words that are grammatical, that are functional, they are oftentimes, not stressed. And because when stress shifts to the lexical word, what happens is that the word of the content of the functional word gets, reduced. I will travel tomorrow. I will. It's not I will travel tomorrow. It's I will travel tomorrow. I can help you. You should go to the doctor. But when we put emphasis on the word, like no, you should, here it's not should, it's should. It's not can, it's can. Yes, you can, and so on and so forth. Okay, Mohammed Ansari, thank you, sir. It's an honor to be a friend. Thank you very much. The pleasure is all mine. Thank you. Now what? um, in phonology, the basic unit of analysis, phonology works with what? Just to summarize the whole point. Phonology, I'm not talking about phonology from recent, maybe perspectives like optimality. Let's talk about mainstream phonology, the phonology that you are most likely to be introduced to at the level of S4 and S5. Okay, so in phonology, for the job of phonology is to look at the speech sound and determine its function. One of the first concerns of a phonologist is to see if a given speech sound, now we are not defining yet. Phonology comes and takes a speech sound and it determines its status. Phonology, for example, tells us if a speech sound is a phoneme or not a phoneme. Okay, so one of the primary jobs in phonology of a phonologist is, and by the way, the exercises that you have on the day of the exam are exactly these things. It just happens that I'm saying it in a different way, perhaps in a more transparent way. So the primary job for a phonologist is to see whether, for example, you have a sound like t. Oops, I'm afraid. Okay. A sound t, and then t, and the sound th, for example. Now let's imagine this scenario. Excuse the spontaneity of my examples, but I think they will explain the thing in a quick way and in a transparent way. Now we have a phonologist and we have a language, and the phonologist wants to consider the status. So he hears, the native speaker produce t, th, and then t. Let's say that this phonologist hears these from a native speaker of English. Okay? So the first question is, for example, are these phonemes? Okay? In order to describe, in order to determine, in order to answer this question as to whether the three sounds here are phonemes or something else. Good evening, Pato Destruction. Good evening. Yeah, are phonemes. I don't want to jump the gun or saying allophones here. Let's just talk about phonemes just to make life easy for some students here. So we have a linguist who hears t, th, and t, the aspirated t. هذه ماشي th. This is not a th. This is a t. All right, like in time. We will come to this. So the first decision that a linguist can take, a phonologist in this case, is to conclude things, to have conclusions about, to project conclusions about the status of these. So the first question is, are they phonemes or not? In order to know whether they are phonemes or not, there is a technique. The phonologist, for example, can tell, sorry, I will adjust this chair. The phonologist, for example, can provide words like where you have t, okay? Let's say th. Let's say you have yeah, three. Attends. Yeah, you have the word three. You have the word three. Sorry. This one is this. Fine. And then you have the word tree. I need your attention. The people who are here to learn because they have a problem in phonology. You listen to them. This is probably one of the most important points you need to know. Now, what happens here? Let me clean. I need your patience, please. Sorry. Excuse this noise. Well, so we have three, let's say something like this. And then you have tree. Three and tree. If we look at these words, we find out that the words here are the same words except for one consonant. You see, you have re. So here you have different sounds. Now, three means this, and tree means this. Do we have the same meaning or different meaning? Answer, we have a different meaning. So the linguist or the phonologist will say, based on this analysis, what analysis? The fact that these are similar words except for one sound, which is th and t. These words are exactly the same if we don't have this. They differ only in one sound. Number two, apart from being different in only one sound, I mean the rest is fine. Apart from this, the meaning is different. Conclusion, when you have these two conditions, when a linguist finds out that we have two words that are similar except for one, as is the case here, plus, plus, these words have two different meanings, the conclusion is that th and t are two phonemes. Th is a phoneme, t is also a phoneme. So what is a phoneme? The definition of a phoneme is refers to a speech sound that is capable of contrasting meaning in a given language. I repeat, a phoneme is a speech sound that is capable of, contrasting, of changing, let's say, of changing meaning in a given language. Can th change meaning? Yes, it can. Why? Because if you have tree and you take t out and you put th instead of t, you will have three. So the meaning will change. We call this the contrastive property of the phoneme. So th is a phoneme, and one of the characteristics of a phoneme is its ability to change meaning. So we say the contrastive or the distinctive, let's call it, the distinctive property of the contrastive, or also the distinctive property of the phoneme. Okay? So here, yeah, thank you, pas de destruction. Thank you. Yeah, that you are absolutely right. So the contrastive property or the distinctive property of the phoneme. A phoneme is a phoneme only if it can change meaning. If it can't change meaning, it's not a phoneme, it's something else. We will refer to that in due course. Okay? But please, my friends, if you are here, about to start a phonology course or about to be examined in a phonology course, and this is a message also to the students here who will take Introduction to Linguistics later on. In order to determine a phoneme, that a speech sound is a phoneme, two conditions have to be satisfied. Not just one, two. What are they? Number one, we should have two words that go together. Okay, two words that go together. I'm sorry, I'm a bit tired. Two words that are similar except in one sound. كيختلفوا في ان سون في ساوند واحد. باقي الكلمه بحال بحال. بالحق يختلفوا في حرف واحد. فاش كنقول الحرف اللي برونونسي ماشي الحرف اللي مكتوب. اوكي؟ good. That's condition one. Condition number two. المعنى ديالهم خصهم مع هذه الكلمتين المختلفتين في حرف واحد خصهم يكونوا معنى مختلف. Comme ça, on a un phoneme. On a produit un phonème. Okay? It's a phoneme. Do you understand? I hope you do. So this technique that linguists, namely phonologists, use to determine whether a given sound is a phoneme or not. This technique of looking for words that are the same except in one word, etc., and the difference in terms of meaning. This technique is referred to as the minimal pair test. I repeat, we call it the minimal pair test. Let me write it here. I'm writing it in the comments. Minimal pair test. And we say that 3 and 3 are a minimal pair. Let me repeat. These two words, 3 and 3, the words, not the sound. The words are a minimal pair. And these sounds هذاك الساوند الوحيد اللي كيختلفوا فيه هو اللي كنسميوه phoneme. Okay? So we have a minimal pair. We have a phoneme. My friends, now, if you have, because in phonology you may have a general question. What is the main function of a phoneme? Or you can have a question like, what is a minimal pair test? Here, and I open a bracket here for those of you who are likely to have this question on the day of the exam. You need to answer, because if you are asked to write a paragraph, then you have to write a paragraph with a topic sentence first. And at that moment, I always say these things, this piece of advice for students. I wouldn't give them any question that you are supposed to answer in the form of a paragraph. Have in mind producing a topic sentence. You see, what is a minimal pair? Yeah, yes, it's clear. Thank you, Sada Zainab, for confirming. Well, I will read your comments, Mustafa, in a moment. Let me finish just this idea, please. So when you are given, a question like this or any other question, make sure that you think of your topic sentence first. For example, what is what is it that makes a phoneme different from an allophone, for example? Here you have to say something like there are a number of differences between a phoneme and allophone. One technique to start your paragraph is to read the question and rephrase it and put it as a topic sentence. You take it from the question. And number two, please don't forget concrete examples. Don't forget illustrations. Like these, things like these inside the paragraph will make your professor impressed with what you have produced. But if you start just theorizing AFACOM in linguistics, it's not a good idea just to start talking in the air, theorizing, even if you have learned things by heart. Get down to data, and you may give it from a language, you may provide a hypothetical language, show that you can apply what you have known inside the paragraph, show examples. All right, good. So, C. Mustafa says the hope of a phonemicist is to find a minimal pair because once a minimal pair is found, the job of the phonologist is done. The two sounds are different phonemes and not the phone tokens of the phonemes. Thank you. That's true. That's true. Although the phonologist's job is not done by determining the phoneme, because there are other things that they do. For example, they consider what you called yourself, Simurshid, as the phonotactic constraints, what possible sequences are possible and what possible sequences are not, and so on and so forth. So this is the job done by the phonologist. But this is the primary objective, okay? So I will go back to the very first question. So the first job a phonologist has to do is to determine which, sounds have this status of a phoneme and which do not. How do we achieve this? By means of what is referred to as the minimal pair test. What is a minimal pair test? It's to look for words that are the same, and then we take we take into consideration the only sound that changes, and that's number one. And number two, we will see the meaning. Please, you should not forget the meaning. Please, when you have an exam on phonology, the teacher might ask you, consider the following data and see if S and Z are phonemes, allophones, or in free variation. We're coming to these things. باش نشوف واش phonemes. By the way, sometimes if you see a situation like this and you don't look here, if you have three here, for example, let's say in Arabic you have قال and you have قال. We have this first condition is satisfied, but not the second one. Can we say q and g in this data are phonemes? No. Why? Because qal and gal, yes, they are the same words. Yes, they differ only in one consonant, in q and g, but the meaning is the same. So here they are not phonemes. باش يكونوا phonemes deux conditions. You see? Same words differ in one sound plus meaning. So please, on the day of the exam, always go and look for your gloss. The gloss means the translation of these words into English. And then you will see if they are phonemes or not. We will talk about that in a moment. I don't want to introduce terms at once, okay? It's one by one in a pedagogical way. That will be the same. Thank you, Siad Ali, for providing us with these examples of Qal and Gal. I have used them, hopefully successfully. So Nathalie Leblanc says we have the same frame with difference in one sound. That's true. That's true. Leading to different meaning. You summed it up all, Nathalie Leblanc. That's exactly the thing. À chacun sa façon de comprendre. You understood in that nice way. So it's a very good thing. Yeah, good. Nice. So let's move on, please. So let's distinguish between a phoneme, like the example that we have here, 3 tree. We may have let's give us example. You type examples, please, if from French, from the language that you know. Okay. قال and قال in Arabic القرعة and القرعة, these are not القرعة when you're referring to pumpkin. You see, I'm not talking about the battle meaning. That's another thing. القلب and القلب. Here they are the same, except for q and g. But because there is the same meaning, we cannot say that they are phonemes. Okay. So cat and bat. Let's say this. Cat like this. Bat. Cat. But I should have transcribed it. But just excuse me for that. Cat and bat. These are the same. You have at here, at here. Here you have a sound differ in one sound, which is in one we have k, written as C, and the other one you have p. Do we have the same meaning? Of course, we end up having two different animals, which means that k and p are two independent phonemes in English. Okay. Let me provide you with a hypothetical example. Oh, sorry. in a language, for example, if you, because I'm thinking of naturally occurring examples, but I don't think I can. Well, yeah, this is a real example. How do we pronounce this word in English? At least the pronunciations are possible here. The first one is economic, economic. Okay. Another one is economic. So e, sometimes this one can be either an e or an a. Okay. Though the economic version is more frequent in any case. So we have economic, economic. Different people produce this in different ways because whether you say economic or economic, the fact remains that we are referring to the same thing. So there is a change in terms of ea, but the meaning is still the same. Can we say that e and a in this example are different phonemes? No, we cannot say that they are different phonemes. Okay, given this example, I mean, but in English they are, of course, yes. Okay, Kerry Belvin says, Professor, please provide an example in French. Thanks. I'll do my best to provide you with. Okay, let me do that. Uh, yeah. Yeah, look at this. On a en français le mot, le verbe rendre. Rendre means give back. Mais on a aussi vendre. Here, Kelly Bivens, I don't know if you yeah, you are an anglophone as well, but anyway, here you have rendre and rendre. These two words are similar, exactly the same, except I say exactly they are the same, except when it comes to these. Here we have the r sound and we have the v sound here. This is the first step. 50% of the chances r and v are independent phonemes. Now let's see the meaning. That's part two. Meaning is always part two. Rendre means give back. Vendre means sell. So here we have different meanings, which means that this and this are independent phonemes, and this word and this word form a minimal pair. Good. So thank you. All right. So, thank you. Boire, voir. These are all nice words to illustrate the phonemic status of speech sounds. Almost the keyboard doesn't have all the phonetic. Yes, economic. Yeah, that's true. That's true. So it's a pity that that the keyboard lacks in these phonetic symbols. Okay, père, mère, absolutely. And also you have Nathalie for mère, la maman, and la mère, the C. So the A there is also contrastive because you have the same word. You just one of them is written with what we call an accent grave, and the other is without the accent with this diacritic. So it's okay. So la mère, that's true. Okay, nice. So let's move on probably to the next point. Look at this. You have niño, niña in Spanish, or say Mustafa. I think that niño, niña, yeah. But the point is, I think that's not a good example to illustrate for the phonemic status because there is morphology that intervenes here of more masculine, feminine. That's more of a derivation than an autonomous word. Hermano, hermana also in Spanish, they are masculine and feminine. Okay, so I'm afraid that these are not good to introduce in a phonology class for the simple reason that there is morphology at play when you say niño, niña, or vecino, vecina. When you say you talked about hermano, hermana. All right, nice. So let's move on, please, to the next point. اسمحوا لي, there is one thing I would like to add here, ماشي to add, but to conclude this part with. I don't know if I have students here who are worried about their exams, but the point is, look at the gloss, please. Gloss كتعني, the meaning that you are given in English. So that if the professor asks you whether s and z, for example, are two independent phonemes or they are in free variation, what's the difference? يلا هي هذه. What's the difference between having two sounds in free variation and having two sounds as independent phonemes? There is one difference. It's the meaning. If you have the same meaning, you have free variation. If you have different meanings, you have independent phonemes. It's the meaning. So many students forget the meaning because they see that we have similarity of words. This is an independent phoneme, and they get it wrong sometimes because they do not check the gloss. Gloss means the dictionary or the meaning, I'm sorry, that they give you. Nice. Let's move on to the next point, please, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. Okay, let me just move on to the introduction of another concept here, which is the concept of allophony. But let's first and foremost, this might take some little time, some effort, and some concentration on your part, ladies and gentlemen. We have a phoneme. Let's say that t is a phoneme in the English language. T is a phoneme. We know it now. How do we know it? Because there is 3 and 3. This is evidence, yes or no? Tongue and thong, that's another example showing that t is a phoneme. Okay, nice. Same meaning for yeah, that's true, Nathalie Leblanc. Thank you very much. All right, so we have this t here. Okay, so we know that it's a phoneme in English, but let's consider this data. How do you pronounce t in time? How do you pronounce it in start? And how do you pronounce it in meet? We have 3 words. We have time, start, and meet. We know now for sure that t is a phoneme. Okay? Now, so the pronunciation of time, the t of time, okay? The t of time is pronounced with a h here, a small h. We call this aspiration. Time. All right? Thank you, Asma. Thank you. Okay, we say time. Why? Because there is a rule in English saying that when t occurs before a stressed vowel, just to make the rule direct and easy, okay, when t occurs before a strong vowel, I mean syllable initially means at the beginning of the syllable. I repeat, when a voiceless stop, by the way, this aspiration, I think we can open a bracket about it here. The word aspiration, what is the word aspiration first? And then we come back to this, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Nice. Aspiration in the English language is a characteristic of voiceless stops only. That is to say, you have p, t, k, p, t, k. These are the 3 sounds that can be concerned with aspiration. Aspiration. What is aspiration? Very simply, aspiration refers to the pronunciation of p, t, k in English. English, and we will see what happens in other languages. So in English, aspiration simply refers to the pronunciation of p, t, k with an extra puff of air. For example, instead of saying p, you say p, not just p. Instead of saying t, you say t, t. When you say k, you say k. You see? When do we use these things? When do we pronounce it this way? If if we have these, one of these three particular, if these occur at the beginning of a syllable, at the beginning of a syllable, رقم واحد, and the next vowel after the sound is stressed. Do we have the situation with time? Let's see. Is it at the beginning of a syllable? Yes, it is. Is it followed with a stressed and strong vowel? Yes, because I is a diphthong. So time is pronounced as time. 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 Is that okay? مزيان. Let's move. Start. Is it at the beginning of a syllable? No, it's not at the beginning of a syllable because you have a s before. So it's start without start. Meet. Is it aspirated? No, it's not aspirated. علاش? Because it's at the end of the syllable. Okay? So how about the word important? What time does the swim meet start? So let's read this using the rule of aspiration. What? The t of what is not aspirated because it's at the end. So no. Time, you have the same situation here because you have t at the beginning of a syllable followed with a strong vowel, so it's time. Does the swim meet? Meet? No. Meet, the t of meet is not pronounced with aspiration because it's not at the beginning of a syllable and it's not followed with a vowel that is strong. Okay, and the same thing for start. No, start. You have summarized these words. Thank you, Kelly Bivens. Okay, now why am I saying this? I am saying this to introduce a concept here. Just normally, let's focus just on time for pedagogical reasons. نركزوا غير على هاد التايم هذا. Wait. There is some noise outside. I hope it's not disturbing you. Okay, so we have this word time. I need your attention here because if you understand it this way, you will prepare your exams very comfortably. Because this point is one of the most difficult parts of a phonology class for students, especially the ones that are that take phonology for the first time. Now, just imagine we imagine a scenario, we imagine a situation, right? We have someone whom we ask to say time. Okay? Now, if this person here who wants to say time, instead of saying time, he says time without this, without aspiration. Okay, so scenario one. Scenario number two, we ask someone to say time, yeah, but he says lime. Okay? Yeah. I repeat for you to understand. نعطيكم la situation باش نبنيو عليها. Just imagine the linguist has a native speaker who he asks to produce this word here, to pronounce it. Native speaker number one says, machine native speaker. Let's say speaker number one, because native speakers will get it right. He asks someone, to produce time. The first person says time. مزيان, very good. The second person does not say time. He says or she says only time without time. The third person does not say time, he says lime. Now, you can obviously conclude that this one here, time without this H, without this puff, even if it was mispronounced, the meaning is not changed. Because in English, we don't have a word called time and another word called time. There is no change in meaning. Yes or no? Good. Is there a change when we pronounce it as line? Yes, there is. And now we have produced another meaning. So that's a good starting point to tell us that time and time do not change meaning. And this would mean that t and d, t and t, they belong to the same phoneme. They are the same. So t and t are the same. Why? Because number one, they share some features. They share some features. Number two, t here, the aspiration is derived by a rule. What's the rule? It simply means that when you have a t sound, pronounce it with an aspiration if it's syllable initially before a strong vowel. This is what we have here. This is what we have here. So we have a rule here for the pronunciation of t. Therefore, we conclude that we have a situation here where we have a sound, اللي هو t. This sound can have two pronunciations depending on the rule. I repeat. Here we have a situation where we have one sound, the sound t, but this sound t can have two pronunciations. What are these two pronunciations? These two pronunciations are t and t. But why do we have this situation? Answer, it's because there is a rule. What is the rule? The rule is that if you have a t sound syllable initially before a strong vowels, you are not allowed to say t, t, but you have to say t. Okay? Do we change meaning here? No. All that we have is just a rule that makes this sound somehow different in certain contexts. Do you understand? So we have the rule of aspiration. What is the rule? The rule is aspirate a voiceless stop like t when this voiceless stop occurs syllable initially before a strong or stressed vowel. So our conclusion here is that we say, that t is a phoneme. T is a phoneme. Okay. Or let me explain it in a better way, please. We have t, the t sound. Okay, I will introduce the notations after, but this is for pedagogical reasons. So the sound t can either be pronounced like t, in the examples like meat, for example, okay, or stay, but this can also have another pronunciation. It's the t. Here, the small h, we write the small h above, okay? Okay, just for you to see clearly. Nice, like this. And here you have, for example, something like, so it's pronounced as t, and then you have the example of time, as we say, time. I am not writing the using the IPA yet, so I'm just using this just to show for you to understand, for those who would like to understand, to have no problem in understanding this. So I conclude, given the fact that we can say time and meat, we notice that t is necessarily pronounced as t if it is syllable initially, if it occurs syllable initially before a strong vowel. And it is pronounced as a normal t elsewhere. شنو عندنا هنايا؟ We have two versions of one thing, deux versions. مثلا بحال une voiture فيها هاد لو باك هذا فيها لو باك الاخر. مثلا عندنا غونو ولا بيجو جو سي با. اوكي. Et on a مثلا هاد لو باك هذا c'est un autre pack. ولكن est-ce qu'il s'agit de la même voiture? Oui. Une voiture فيها العامرة الخاوية المتوسطة إلى آخره. Mais ce sont des versions. Des versions ديال la même maman اللي هي la voiture de catégorie X, de type X. I hope you understand this now. It's the variant. You have this pen. It's not a good example to use the pen. The best is well, just imagine you have a pen like this. This is a category. I will not read it anyway. It's a category. It's a brand. Look at this. This is black. This is blue. Yes or no? هذا وهذا ce sont des versions ديال هاد la catégorie. J'espère que vous avez compris. Maybe the better example is the one that I gave with a car. A car that has versions, but it has to do with the same category. It's the same. We have t here as a sound, as a phoneme. Et ce phonème-là, عنده les versions. Sometimes it's pronounced as t in this context, in the context where it's, for example, at the end of the syllable, or okay, but it's pronounced as t in this context. So we refer to these variants or variants, les variantes, or to these versions or to these versions. Je répète, we refer to these versions of a phoneme, that is to say, the different shapes and forms depending on context a phoneme can occur in. كنسميو هادو لي فيرسيون هادو لي بتيت فيرسيون بحال هادي وهادي. We refer to them as an allophone. An allophone. So this is a phoneme, and these are called allophones. Allophone. Call it an allophone. Allophone. Okay. Now, what is this difference between phoneme and allophone? Another characteristic of a phoneme, another character, apart from being contrastive and distinctive, يعني apart from the ability to change meaning, we saw that in the minimal pair. Another characteristic of phoneme is that it's abstract enough to have variants. So this one here is abstract. It's abstract because we see it in these shapes that it has. It just happens that this allophone here is similar to the phoneme. It's similar. This one is somehow different. Okay? Sometimes you have variants, but you don't have an explicit phoneme, for example. I will give you an example here right away. Okay, so here let me read the comments. They are helpful in explanation. So Mustafa says a phoneme is phonetically realized in different allophones. Thank you very much. That's true. So you have a phoneme that has phonetic realizations. في الواقع, when we speak with allophones. Okay, not with phonemes. Phonemes are somehow abstract. Okay, even if the allophone sometimes is the same, is similar to the allophone. Okay, as is the case here. هذا version ديال هذا عنده deux versions. واحدة هكذا واحدة ديال هكا. Okay, nice. So C. Abdullah Raji says port, sport, car, tone, stone. So this illustrates that so the words that have S at the beginning, sound at the beginning, are not eligible for aspiration. I absolutely agree with you because it will satisfy the first rule, which says that this sound, for it to be aspirated, it has to be syllable initially. هذوك ماشي syllable initially, of course. Ustad Samia says allophones, variants of the same phoneme. That's true. Different realizations of the same phoneme. That's well stated. Thank you very much. Nathalie Leblanc, allophones are different realizations. Oh, that's good. You understand this. Very good. I'm very happy that I have these comments. Pas toute destruction, says in B we can have variants without having a phoneme. Absolutely right. And this is exactly what I will show you here. Sometimes we need to argue for the phoneme. We cannot see that physically, but we can argue for it, as I will show you. I have an example to give you. Okay, thank you very much for this point, pas de destruction. I couldn't understand this idea. I thought so. I will give you an example in a moment. Thank you very much. All right. Mustafa Morshid says, so we can say that aspiration in English is allophonic. Absolutely. Absolutely. There is a language, there is Hindi, for example, but unfortunately, I cannot remember the examples from Hindi. In Hindi, for example, aspiration is phonemic. Why? Sorry. Uh, um, I'm sorry for this noise. Oh. You have a language like Hindi. There is a word like, but I don't know what it means, honestly. I think it's shoes or something. Okay. There is this, something like this. Pa, it means something, it means X. And you have the other one that is aspirated, ba, it means Y. If you have this situation on the day of the exam, and the teacher asks you to talk about aspiration in Hindi, and you have data like this, what is your conclusion? The conclusion is that in Hindi, aspiration is phonemic. How many phonemes do we have here? We have two phonemes. We have P and we have another one that is P. In English, no. In English, no. Aspiration is not phonemic. Ulla is not contrastive. Thank you. Thank you for saying that, the patu destruction. Thank you very much. Yes. Okay. So in Hindi, a language like Hindi, but you have others, aspiration can result in the change of meaning. In English, whether you say time or time, they may tell you that you did not pronounce well, but they will understand that you're talking about the time. What time is it? It's fine. I mean, next time or next time, it's okay. Okay, nice. So I hope that that you understood this clearly. Okay, so yeah, aspiration in English, TM Games says Hindi is distinctive, of course. Yes. Sometimes, and let me move to the other. I hope you understand. Who among you still has this problem with the distinction between a phoneme and an allophone? P and P are allophones of the same phoneme, and that's absolutely right. It's a nice way of expressing this. Okay, Mr. Abdullah. Okay, thank you very much. Pas de destruction says. So just in case, let me see. It's crystal clear. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm very happy when I clarify things. These are things. These things are generally, difficult to explain. So it takes maybe some. For you future teachers, if you are not teachers yet, I repeat this: always start with what is easy. I know there are concepts here that I should have introduced before. One of them is just the symbols. خليتهم أبا. When you understand this clearly, we can introduce symbols. It will be even, even easier to know. Okay, so let me just let me spray, a liquid here to, this. God, I hate this noise. Okay, that's enough. Now, let's move on to something else, to a situation that probably was asked by, not asked, but was emphasized. The need is obviated, is made obvious by, I think, Kelly Bevins or Pato Destruction, about the fact that, there are some phonemes whose some allophones where we don't know the phoneme. Yeah, let's just try it here. So here, beyond the book says phoneme is a mental representation of the sound, absolutely, and it can be realized as allophones, which can also be realized as aspirated, released, or elsewhere. Yeah, that's so an allophone. An allophone is not realized. An allophone is already a realization. So we have an abstract mental representation. That's what we have. We have t here because we found out that it's contrastive. And then this t, and by the way, what applies to t can apply to different, to practically all the sounds. And these mental representations, and that's why I said they are abstract. A phoneme is a mental representation, therefore it has a level of abstraction. It's not directly accessible. So these phonemes have variants, have versions. These versions are referred to as allophones. Yeah, thank you. Can we talk about implication laws in phonology? We can talk about that. Probably not here. See, Mustafa. For the simple that I need. Well, if we have time at the end, we can do that. There is no problem with that. Okay, Mr. Mustafa. Okay, so yes, sir, please. And this looks on phoneme, abstract metal category. Allophone is the physical realization of phoneme. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. So let me now move on to an example where we may have three variants, but we don't know the the parent, phoneme. Yeah. But there are ways for arguing, of course. Hold on. Let's have this. Okay. No. Okay, let's keep this. Inadequate. You have the word inadequate. You have the word impossible. We are probably doing some more for phonology, but it's good. It's good to illustrate what is important is to illustrate the concept here. And then we have the word incredible. I hope it's clear here. I think it is clear. Impossible and then incredible. I think it's clear. مزيان. If I ask any one of you to read these words with a relatively small tempo, I am more likely to have this being pronounced as inadequate with an n. Just focus on the pronunciation of the nasal here, please. Nasal. So inadequate for the first one, impossible for the second one, and incredible for the third one. Now, these are suffixes that derive, the opposite of the word. Adequate, inadequate, possible, impossible, credible, incredible. The question is, why is it that sometimes the prefix is pronounced as in, sometimes it's pronounced as im, sometimes it's pronounced as ing? This is something you're not thought of? Maybe. But so credible, we have incredible. Can we say, for example, incredible? Like when I speak in English, we don't speak like that, of course, English. Okay? Incredible. Can we say impossible? No, it's impossible. See? So the situation here can be very easily explained. We have, so let's focus just on the pronunciation of these. Let's focus on the pronunciation of these. Where is the basic form? Because here, what is n? N is what? It's an alveolar nasal. All of them here are nasals. The change happens with what? With place of articulation. So here you have n, m, and ng. You will see that the different pronunciations of the nasal here will heavily depend on the nearest consonant. They take the place of articulation of the nearest consonant to them. Look at the first one, inadequate. Inadequate. You have n, and then you have a vowel a, but then you have d. D is what? It's alveolar. علاش كنقول لكم phonetics is necessary. So d is alveolar, and therefore the nasal here is alveolar. Okay, so The prefix is realized as in when the first consonant of the stem or the root, the stem is, okay, an alveolar. The nasal is realized as a bilabial, like impossible. You see? Impossible. It's not impossible. The nasal becomes an m, it becomes bilabial because after it we have a bilabial stop, which is p. So there is this assimilation. Someone called it homorganic. It's Nathalie Leblanc saying homorganic. If we move to the second example, we have credible. K is what? K is a velar stop. And the nasal has to be a velar nasal, which is ng in English. Do you understand? So here, what do we have? We have trois variantes, three variants. That is to say, three allophones. Now we are at the level of phonology. I know it's, someone will say it's an allomorph. Yes, if we consider the whole thing here. But I am using this example just to show to you that we may have three variants or more, but we don't know the mother. We don't have enough data to know which one is the phoneme. Okay, so we say that we have a nasal here, a nasal that can sometimes be n, sometimes it can be m, and sometimes it can be ng, depending on the next consonant. So we say that n, m, and ng are allophones of the same, of this phoneme here, which is nasal. But which one is it? Is it like time and time? No. Here we don't have evidence for this prefix. I hope you understand me. But we can argue, most likely it's this n. Okay? Most likely it's n. One of the arguments is that when we write incredible, we write it with an. It means that it's the basic one. So this is how we argue. Okay, we can argue also by language acquisition, which comes first, which comes late in the acquisition. We can also refer to the complexity. We can refer to, but sometimes there is no evidence, there is no direct, evidence that this is the phoneme. So because this proves that the phoneme is relatively abstract. Okay, so let me read what you have here. Most of the time we are not aware of these subtle differences between what and what of the phoneme and allophone. Yeah, but it just takes some time to familiarize yourself with that. Maybe reading the relevant chapter. Homorganic consonants, yes, homorganic. We can talk about homorganic assimilation or homorganic nasal assimilation. Here, assimilation of place, that's true. Abla-Raji alveolar bilabial velar, that's true. Taking the phonetic features of an adjacent sound, that's exactly what explains assimilation. We'll come to phonological processes later on. Mustafa Moji taking the phonetic features of an adjacent sound, that's true. We decided that they are not contrastive as the data showcases a prefix, that's true. They are not here they are not contrastive in the sense that, for example, if you replace ng with m, for example, if we go to impossible and we say impossible, would you have another word? No, you will not. So it is in this sense that this is not contrastive. If you say inadequate, for example, for one reason or another, it's weird, but if you just say that, inadequate, no. And by the way, ng is not a phoneme in English. Ng is just there to, it's the n. Whenever there is a n next to a velar sound, it becomes a n. So it's not a phoneme in itself. Okay, good. We decided they are not contrastive as the data showcases the prefix. Yeah, I think now, thank you. So you say thank you, Mzian. Very happy that you understand it, okay? Good. Okay, so there are a few other concepts that I would like to introduce, but after the sip of water, let's go back, please, to the aspiration issue. Let's go back to aspiration to introduce a few concepts, please. Before we introduce concepts, please, conventionally, and this is very important for your exams because what's good and what's bad at the same time about linguistics is that sometimes you write a symbol that can mean different things. So please, for a phoneme, if you want to say that this is a phoneme, you understand? Say that you put the phoneme between slashes. Okay, so the t, which is a phoneme, is between slashes. Yeah, that's the notation. Allophones, allophones are phonetic realizations. شكون هاد phonetic realization? It's what we actually pronounce. That's what we mean by phonetic realization. So what you hear, what you physically hear is the phonetic representation. So phonemes are always between slashes, like this. And allophones, look at this. So this t can have t as an allophone, like me, t. T, it's a variant of this. It happens to be the same, let's say. So هنا كنحطو هادو between square brackets. This is for allophone. Whenever you see something between square brackets, it's not a phoneme, it's an allophone. Okay? So here, t is also an allophone. This one is the phoneme. Now let me introduce further terms. The phoneme is also referred to as, so we say that the phoneme or the underlying phoneme or the underlying representation, the underlying, sorry for the handwriting, representation. Representation, you know how to write it, underlying representation. So the underlying phoneme, the underlying representation, la représentation en sous-jacence in French. Okay? So this is the phoneme, this is and by extension, phonemic transcription. That's true, Si Mustafa. So sometimes we are not interested in the realization of the phonemes, of the details we write. We have what we call phonemic transcription, which is not detailed enough. For example, in a phonemic transcription, you don't mention if it's aspirated or not aspirated. You mention things as they are. But if you want to be detailed, you have to use these square brackets, okay? Good. So we say that this is the underlying representation. We say also that, okay, that allophones are predictable by rule. We can predict them. كيفاش we can predict them? I am able to tell, for example, that this phoneme is realized like this in this context. That is to say, word finally, and this phoneme, هذا هو الرول. This is the rule. This phoneme is realized as an aspirated version here, okay, as a t when it is syllable initially before a strong vowel. As you can see, allophones are derived by rule. There is a rule for us to derive an allophone from a phoneme. That's why we say they are predictable. كيفاش predictable? For example, if I give you a word like car, and I say that the phoneme is k, now here, is it car or car? Because k here is a voiceless alveolar stop, and because it occurs syllable initially before a strong vowel, this one should come as an aspirated version. Donc, هنايا what have I done? Because I know the rule, I can predict the pronunciation. So we say predictability, the allophones have this property called predictability of occurrence, the predictability of occurrence property. Okay? Dictionaries provide a phonemic one to allow for because why is it like that, it's because words number one are isolated, and dictionaries allow for different dialects to pronounce phonemes, because they are not in the speech chain. That's why. Okay, have you got this point here? I hope you have. Just learn this vocabulary, it's going to be helpful. So let me add something to this, please. We say, yeah, okay. So here we, oh, I shouldn't have deleted that. Sorry. Excuse me. Here is some vocabulary that you will hear and that you will encounter when you talk about situations like these. We say that t and t and t, we say that they occur in a complementary distribution. I repeat, t and t are in complementary distribution. What is this complementary distribution? Let me write it in the comment. Complementary distribution. Complementary distribution. Complementary distribution means what? It's like you have a phoneme and it sends, two of its sons, let's say, or to its employees, okay, each, accorded a task to do. So the task that the first phoneme does is not like the task the second phoneme does. I'm sorry, the task the first allophone does is not the same as the second allophone. Let me explain this in other words. Look, let me give you an example of a concrete example that can be naturally occurring. Now, just imagine you have someone you don't easily get along with, someone you wish you will not meet, someone you wish you will never meet. You are not in dispute. You are not. He's not an enemy, but you wish that you would not exist in the same place as he is. Okay, so just imagine again you have the situation of this friend you do not want or you don't wish to see, and imagine you are in a room to which you are invited and to which the other person is invited. Okay, and just imagine there is a place, a small space. When the person comes, you change the space, that place, you go somewhere else because you cannot exist in one place. So it's like you are in complementary distribution. I'm sorry, it's a bad example, but so it means where one exists, the other is excluded, should not exist. So the environments, we say t and t, are in complementary distribution. Why? It's because where the sound t exists, this does not exist, should not exist, and vice versa. For example, if I have type, this is syllable initial. Syllable initial. We have I, which is a diphthong, which means it's a strong vowel, meaning that this sound has to be aspirated. We have type. In its place, we cannot have type, because the rule says when you have this context is reserved for the h. That's why I say it's like a division of labor. We say they are in a complementary distribution, or they occur in mutually exclusive environments, as Natalie says, mutually exclusive. They exclude each other. Where one exists, the other one should not exist. This is complementary distribution. Okay, this is a mutually what we call a mutually exclusive environment. Is that fine? Nice. Let me see if there are things I should cover in this session, then see what to do. Okay, nice. Yeah, there is a question that is getting around. I'm afraid, but this question has existed since the 90s. A question that circulates about the look at this. A question that does not have an answer except if you define, the properties of an allophone. Let's consider this. There are people who would say that h, the sound h in English, and the sound ng will never exist in the same environment. I repeat, h and ng in English will never exist in the same environment. For example, you cannot have a syllable that finishes with a h. You can say here, but there is no word where you have something like u or e, or you cannot. It's not. Similarly, in English, ng is the opposite. It always has to be at the end of the syllable, unlike this. So you cannot provide me with a word that starts with ng. You cannot provide me with a syllable that starts with h. So h is always syllable initial. By the way, this is the symbol that we use for syllable initial. And this is always syllable final. We will come to this notation later on. Okay? So here, apparently, h and ng occur in a mutually exclusive environment, in the sense that where you have a h, the context of syllable initial position, where you have a h, you will never have ng. And where you have ng, syllable final position, we will never have a h. Can we conclude that h and ng are allophones of the same phoneme? The answer is no. Why? It's because there is another characteristic that we should add for two allophones in a mutually exclusive environment to belong to the same phoneme. This is what we refer to as phonetic similarity. هذوك تو allophones باش يكونوا allophones of the same phoneme خص تكون واحد الخاصيه اللي هي خصهم يكونوا phonetically similar، تجمعهم شي حاجه. اشنو جمع هذا وهذا؟ They are consonants. Speech sounds consonant. But this, for example, this is a voiceless velar fricative, and this is a voiceless glottal fricative, and this is a voiced velar fricative. So there is no similarity between them. So we cannot conclude that these are, allophones of the same phoneme, despite the fact that they occur in mutually exclusive environments. What is missing probably in this session is the fact that we have not been able to provide more illustrative data, because our concern was more to introduce concepts. There will come sessions when, by the way, I invite you to send me to my private message, on Messenger, maybe exercises from previous exams, so that we can work them out. I will write them on the board. I prepare that before the live, and then we can solve we can do the exercises together. We can correct them, in other words, and explain the reasons, why, for example, this rule is this way. And so we can talk about that in any case. Thank you everyone. So now I would like to, maybe there are things that I have not that I have missed here, but it's more, your comments were geared towards helping the presentation. So I would like to thank you very much for being here to talk about or to help me with the explanation. Si Mustafa says, can you talk about naturalness, markedness, and implicational laws in phonology? Thank you, Professor. Yes, of course I can. Let me do that very quickly. Naturalness. Let's talk about naturalness. Thank you, C. Kelly Bivens. If you are a male, I don't know, I'm sorry, but I don't know whether. So Kelly Bivens is more like, I don't know. You are more likely to be a boy. I don't know. But correct me if I'm wrong. You have names that camouflage your identity. So I apologize if I use the wrong gender terms. Thank you. Thank you so much. So we have, thank you, Mohammed Amin. Barakallahu fikum. Let me go back to naturalness, markedness, and implicational laws in phonology. Let me start with the first with the statement. Phonological changes in general, phonological processes in general. We'll see what the phonological. Let's use the word sound change, Tafi, as a more theory neutral term. Okay, so which one are you? So Kelly is a. I didn't know this. Kelly Bivens. So you are more likely to. So you are a female. Thank you very much for this information. No, because I did not know that Kelly with Y is a male. Honestly, you see. So thank you for this information. So Barraho says, thank you, Professor. Thank you very much. And Samia says, shared features. Maybe this is a comment that arrived late, perhaps. Anyway, let me talk about naturalness. Let me start with this important point that sound change is not haphazard. Sound change is not random. Even historically, changes find you can find explanation to a change, okay, to a sound change, I mean. And therefore there are changes that are attested in the majority of languages. We referred to them as natural, okay, natural changes. So we refer here to naturalness. Let me give you an example. It's more likely, it's more likely for example, a consonant, a voiced consonant to become voiceless at the end of a word than it is to have a voiceless that becomes voiced. So here, devoicing word finally is a natural process. Why? It's because there are so many, or at least some languages that evidence or that where this process is attested. But there are hardly any languages. I don't know if there are, but if they existed, they are so rare and there are exceptions. But I doubt whether there are languages where you have a voiceless consonant at the end, which is voiced. For example, a consonant is always voiced at the end of this is not natural. So here we refer to naturalness. For a sound like t, the t sound is more likely to become a th. It's more likely to become a fricative in the intervocalic position than is, for example, a th to become a t in the intervocalic position. It's not natural. You see, we measure naturalness. The yardstick against which to measure naturalness is the occurrence. To what extent this is attested in languages. That's how we judge whether a process or a given sound change, let's say, is natural or not natural. Okay, and now we come to the issue of markedness. Markedness, for example, you have sounds that are marked or not marked. Markedness concerns first sounds and maybe features. Then there are also processes that are marked and those that are not marked. A marked process, again, or a marked sound, is a sound that is not usual. An unmarked sound is a sound that is usual, that is natural. So these concepts are interconnected. You see? So yeah, Nathalie Leblanc likes spiritization. Spiritization is the process whereby, a voiced, no, a stop becomes a fricative. We have the famous example from Spanish where you have b, banca, okay, but you have la banca, v, la vaca also for the cow. Anyway, so for what we call markedness. Markedness is one way of characterizing, especially sounds that are not frequent in languages. The less frequent, the more marked. In the languages that you know, for example, let's take Arabic, French, English. Oh no, that's not a good example. I'm sorry, because I wanted to say something. We are just lucky to have Arabic. Let's take Moroccan Arabic, French, and English. Yalla. not standard Arabic. Moroccan Arabic, French, and English. Let's take تشلحيت, not ترفيت or تمازيغ. تشلحيت, I will tell you why. تشلحيت, Moroccan Arabic, French, English, as a representation of so many languages. Imagine we have copies of تشلحيت, copies of, when it comes to the th sound. In تشلحيت there is no th sound. It's always a t, okay? تمورت, you have a تفروغت, etc. It's not تفروغت, that's something else. That's somewhere else. Okay? In Moroccan Arabic, do we have a th sound? At least in Rabati, Casablanca, Morocco. No, it's t. تلاجة, تنين, إلى آخره. And some students make this mistake. 1, 2, 3, not 1, 2, 3. In English, do we have a th sound? Yes, we do. So the fact that th sounds is less frequent in the language we have concerned makes of it a marked sound. Marked means unusual. T exists in most of the languages. Th exists only in some languages. It's marked. N exists and n exists in most languages. N exists in few languages. So n is more marked. Okay, so here markedness is defined in whether it's normal or not normal. Just imagine you get into a classroom, and you find out that where there is a given dress code, you get to the classroom and you find that the students are dressed in a roughly similar way, not just in colors, but roughly similar means what is expected of them to wear. But just imagine you get inside the classroom, and in the middle of the classroom there is a student who is dressed in a very weird way. The first thing that will attract your attention is that weirdly dressed student. It can be in terms of color, in terms of the way, the haircut, in terms of anything. See? So we say that student is marked in the sense that, I'm just making an analogy. We do not say that you are marked like that in normal language, but this is what we do when it comes to the phonemes of a given language. So markedness, it's how weird and how weird in the sense that, and in the sense of unusual, how unusual a sound is in languages. So this is what we refer to as markedness. So markedness, we can have markedness of sounds, markedness, it can be markedness of features, for example, like stridency. The feature strident is a marked, sound. And by the way, sometimes it can be marked in this language, but not in this. It's a bit as a term, it's a bit, as a concept, it's a bit complex. But I'm just providing you with the main, point in regard to that. Okay, thank you very much. So hello, Professor. I hope you're doing well. Sorry for joining late. Please have a question about distinctive features. So do fricatives are delayed release or not? No, Sirabia. Fricatives are not plus delayed release. The feature, and we will come to this. So if you don't, if the other students here do not understand this feature called delayed release, it's called DIL-REL, DIL like this, DIL, REL, delayed release. This characterizes, usually it characterizes affricates, not fricatives. In English, the features that have delayed release are ch and j. Safi. Okay, so if you want to know about delayed release in English, ch and j, that's all. In German, it's f and ts, because you have the word like apfel for apple, and then you have ts like zug for the train, and you have that. Okay, and in some dialects of Moroccan Arabic, like Jibli Moroccan Arabic, we have the j. Okay, jada, for example, which means carrots. The j there has a delayed release feature. But for fricatives, it's we play with the plus or minus continuance. So if it's a stop, it's minus continuant, and if it's a fricative, it's plus continuant. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Yes, Mustafa, it's about how unnatural a sound is. That's the marked sound. Si Abdullah. Okay, so Si Rabi Al Fadil, I hope I have answered your question. Let me say it again. Delayed release characterizes affricates rather than fricatives. All right. Okay, so I will let you. Okay, so we have Nathalie Leblanc, unexpected. Yes, unexpected means unusual, it is marked. Yes. Abdullah Raji says, I'd love to attend a session where you speak about difference between language and dialect and the conditions whereby we, unfortunately, for me, I don't teach sociolinguistics and I don't teach phonology. I've never taught that. It happened just once. I think it was in 2015 also. So that's all. Otherwise, I have never taught phonology. I have never taught sociolinguistics, but I am ready for sessions of this type where we can exchange, our ideas about these things. Yes, I teach Kelly Bivens. I teach at the Faculty of Letters, Mohammed the Fifth University. So it's Muhammad the fifth, not Muhammad five. Muhammad the first, Muhammad. So you have that, Hassan the second. We should not calibrate this on the French language. And it's a mistake, by the way. Sometimes I make unawares, but it's Muhammad the fifth, not Muhammad five. Okay, good. So Rabia says, got it, sir. So that's really nice. Glad that you got it. And you have. Raji says a language is a dialect with an army of navy. Well, the language and dialect are, distinguished along a number of criteria. For a more recent, maybe value neutral or less judgmental term is the word variety. The variety of a language. Dialect connotes some sense of probably interpreted inferiority. But people still continue to use dialect, though I would prefer variant, la variante in French, but it's yeah, we can say a language variety, variety. In French, c'est la variante. In English, it's variety. A language variety. Okay, nice. Okay, so Mustafa Raji. Thank you, sir. Your session. Oh, is that true? The proof is that we have been here for 2 hours and 43 minutes. Alhamdulillah. And the 22 or so students or friends watching me has not changed. So it has only rarely gone below 20, which means that it's some of you at least find it enjoyable. I'm very happy that you do, ladies and gentlemen. Is there any other question you would like me to react to before we call it a live, or are you tired, or I don't know? So I can still afford some more time. So let me know. Okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you. So let me know, please. So thank you so patho destruction. Agreeing with Abdullah that this is an enjoyable session. It's also enjoyable for me as well. Thank you. So let me know if there are things you would like me to respond to. Even variety implies inferiority. For example, X is a yes, 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 yes. Yeah, say Mustafa is a specialist in this. Yeah, because when you say variety, you presuppose that there is a language. But one solution to come to terms with this is to consider everything as a variety, and language will. It's like a phoneme. The language will remain something abstract. I look forward to read. I'm looking forward to reading your thesis, Si Mustafa, so I can know about because you worked on this topic. That's that's something interesting. Okay, so Si Rabia says, please sir, could you save the live? Yeah, I will do that. I will do that for sure, inshallah. So probably okay. Yeah, she is my colleague, Kelly Bivens. She is a colleague, a hardworking colleague, well reputed and well respected among her students and among her colleagues as well. Okay. Yeah. Natalie says, can we talk about allophones when the stress shift? Okay. There's a very important question asked by Nathalie Leblanc. Let me read that. Can we talk about allophones when the stress shift means when there is a case of stress shift? An allophone, in the case where you have a word where you have, for example, a situation where a given vowel receives stress by virtue of being the nucleus of a syllable, and maybe suddenly, following a rule, the stress has shifted. And I will give you an example here. In this case, yes. So the allophones are not allophones. We're not talking about stress as having allophones. No, the allophones should be necessarily the allophones of a phoneme. So the sound a, for example, a, when it reduces to ashva, it becomes e. And I will give you an example right away. Then the a and the reduced version are allophones, of course. Okay, so let me give you an example. Concrete example, Natalie. Okay. Uh, so let's look at this. Now let me politics. Politics. It's not politics, it's politics. And by the way, you have here, aspiration is satisfied, but I'm not talking about aspiration here. Look at this, politics. Now, when I add, so this is for politics, like this. Politics. Just imagine I want to derive the adjective from politics. I have to add the suffix l. When you add the suffix l to politics, the suffix l, it draws stress to it. It wants to cover itself with stress because it's cold. Okay, so here, when you add l here, l, and you have the same thing, the stress that you have here shifts to the next syllable, e. علاش حيت هذا جرها جر المنطقة. Okay, nice. So so here the consequence of this stress shift is that this a here, full vowel, it reduces to ashwa. It becomes e. So we have politics. علاش politics? Because stress is on all. Politics. On the syllable, politics. When you add L, it's political. Political. So, do we have allophony here? Yes, we do. Where is it? It's that you have a vowel, a, for example, a, becoming e. So you have something like a. Oh, sorry. Okay, let me create some space. I find problems cleaning this. I need water, perhaps. Okay. So what we have is the phoneme a here, okay, being realized as what? As an a, the Bahati phoneme. Okay. Conventionally, we start with the one that is restricted. So this a here, given this example, is realized as an e sound when there is no stress, when the syllable is not stressed. And it is realized as an a in other contexts elsewhere. So we say that e and a in the context of stress are allophones of the same phoneme. They are variants of the same phoneme. Natalie, have you got the point? Okay. Okay. Rabia, much appreciated. Thank you, Rabia. Thank you. TM Games. How do we reach generalizations in qualitative research given the small? Okay. Let me, this is a bit far from that, but let me answer you, TM, and then we come back. So please, ladies and gentlemen, prepare your questions if you have. I don't promise I will answer, all the questions. I may not know about them, but look at TM Games says, how do we reach generalizations in qualitative research given the small number of sample size? Usually, qualitative research obtains data only from few. That's true. And my answer to you, TM Games, is that someone who embarks on a qualitative study should not seek generalizations. Who says that you need to seek generalizations? Your job is not to look for generalizations. One of the merits of qualitative analysis is that it fathoms up issues, behaviors deeply, and it seeks more insight rather than generalizations. So for you, the qualitative researcher, details matter. Details will inform your research. It's the detail that matters to you, not the generalization. You don't care whether it applies elsewhere or not. Even if you are asked, during your defense. No, never mind. When you ask a question, when a jury member asks you a question, then your answer should be that it's not my job. Sorry, it's not my job to look for generalizations. That's as simple as that. Because normally in a qualitative study, you work with fewer cases, as you say. If it's interviews, you interview 5, 6 people, and maybe if it's too many, you have 10. And just imagine everyone talks for 5 minutes. How much time do you need to transcribe? And you're looking for data for anything that they say can be meaningful to you. So you're not looking for generalizations at all. So just don't worry about this issue of generalizability when it comes to qualitative data analysis. Okay. As a student of linguistics, I hold all varieties equally dear to my heart. Pas toute destruction, because a linguist should get rid of any value judgment, and that languages are the same. There is no language that is superior to another. There is no language on objective criteria. All languages are equal as long as they have their own rules, they have their own lexicon, etc. Si Mustafa Murshid. Okay, thank you, TM Games. Marhaba. Si Mustafa says there is an article titled "All Englishes are equal, but some are more equal." Oh yes, I had this experience. When you get outside of when you visit other countries, you realize how varied what you take to be a language, a unified language, is. And the case in point is English. Hardly had I got into the airport, then I started talking to people. That was in a Gulf country way back in 2020. And then I realized that people speak English. By the way, the first shock was that not everyone speaks Arabic, contrary to my belief. No, because people there, you speak more, are more likely to use English than to use Arabic. And the type of English you will hear, believe it or not, there were times when I was talking to a shopkeeper or in a market, and you would start talking, and I make believe that I understood, but I didn't understand anything. But there are people; these people come from countries like India, like Bangladesh, and Pakistani. With an accent. I'm not judging. No, I'm not judging. It just happens that there are accents that I couldn't quite understand. You see, so I fully agree with you. There are Englishes, and some Englishes, are they are different. We should not assume that they are like the English that we use, in our context. But it's because we study, English mostly, from an academic perspective, and we need to align with formal English. And You see? Okay, fine. So thank you, Mustafa, for sharing this with us. Kelly Bivens, good evening, linguistic friends. Thank you for enjoyable experience, Professor. You are most welcome, Kelly Bivens. Hoping that we will hold other live sessions that you will join. Do you think it's fine, or let's add these 5 minutes just to be proud that we have held a live session for 3 consecutive hours on YouTube. That's not an easy thing, but for me it's an achievement anyway. Okay, thank you, Professor. Nathalie Leblanc says, thank you for the answer, Professor. TM Game says, Mustafa. Okay, so I have read these. Is there anything you would like to add here? A question, perhaps, or a problem, or okay, I do experience such situations on occasions at work. Yeah, destruction. Yes, you are likely to have this, and this is specifically with English because English is spoken around the world. That's what makes because the vaster the area where you speak a language, the more likely you are. You speak a language is spoken, the more likely you are to experience to be exposed to different accents, to different sometimes also different lexical items, different vocabulary items. You see, and different sentence structure, heavily influenced by local languages, perhaps. Yes. Okay. Sometimes, believe me, sometimes it's totally unintelligible. Okay, and I heard from friends who visited the United Kingdom that there are areas where you really need to make effort, despite that you fact that you are a professor or someone who knows about the English language. You need to make an effort because accents are so varied and so different. The intonation sometimes the speech tempo that can vary. That's different. Okay. Do we have further questions here, or Mustafa? There is an article. Okay, fine. So Mustafa says, I would like to thank everyone. There were good comments and questions. Thank you very much, professors. Professor, you are most welcome, see Mustafa, and thank you very much for being so generous to post that that announcement for today's video. Thank you so much. Okay, Natalie says we always enjoy your session. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you so much. Barakallahu feek. Shayma Rashid, her first comment, I guess, here. Thank you, Professor, for this channel. I have learned a lot from you. I'm very happy that you did. We will keep holding these live sessions if, of course, enough interest is shown. Because what can kill a channel, what can make it dormant, is the fact that there is no interest from the people interested, and because there is this interest, I will always be here. As the exams will draw close, I will think of probably not having 3-hour sessions, but maybe half an hour, 1 hour, just to explain something. But this will be on a daily basis. Okay. Pato Destruction says, I do have a small problem, sir. Let's read about your problem. Mr. or Mrs. I don't know. So Pato Destruction. Kelly Bevan says, regarding difficult accents, this is why I love subtitles as native speakers. Yes, that's true. That's true. Yes. Subtitles solve the problem in this regard. I'm about to start working on a research paper. I wish you all the best, Pato Destruction, on cross-cultural communication. This is very interesting. There are a number of theses that you can consult. In cross-cultural communication, you have a lot to say, and there are a lot of aspects, starting from pragmatic, starting from maybe other. It's so broad that you have other, different, elements that you can pursue. Okay, so I wish you all the best. Just in case you would like me to check with you your objectives, all that you need to do is send me a private message on this page. Okay, Mustafa Moshid says, I would like to thank everyone. There were good comments and questions. Thank you very much thank you very much, see Mustafa Moshid. Thank you for everything. I'm reading about cross. Yeah, it's a very interesting area. And in the Moroccan context, there are enough theses that you can consult. again, get in touch with me so that I'll make an attempt to look for a few things that you can start with. All right, pato destruction. I'm planning to go for a contrastive analysis of speech actualization. That's true. That's true. This is very interesting. But you need to narrow down this pato destruction. Uh, because speech acts, we have so many and we have a lot of typologies and a lot of speech acts. So you choose one, preferably the one that is least studied. For example, requests and apologies have been investigated in Morocco, and so many theses, so much work has been produced in these two. Choose another speech act, and then things will be, interesting, inshallah. Okay. I'm planning to go for a contrastive analysis. Yeah, we saw that. That's very interesting. Yes. Khadija Handar, that's your first comment. Thank you so much, Professor, for your insightful presentation. You are most welcome. Thank you. There's a point I would like to make about. I don't know if I have my S5ers here, some of my S5 students here. In one of the comments, a student made the point that they are suffering with syntax, but you are suffering with syntax. Why didn't you join the live sessions? On complementizer, on the IP, on C command. This is exactly what you have in the program, right? Okay, so join. This, and then if you have questions, you participate as do these people these friends that I have here. Why do you shy away from asking questions? Okay, Mustafa says there are whole books on intelligibility in world Englishes. Okay, I will read your thesis, Mustafa, and I will discover a lot of things, I'm sure. So I'm excited to read it so soon, inshallah. But to description, thank you very much, sir. You are most welcome. Okay, I think you are tired, as I am myself. So let's meet on another occasion, inshallah. I will make an announcement for this. We will continue with further issues in phonology, perhaps with more data. And we should not forget syntax. We will start talking about movements. We'll start with I to C movement, and then NP movement in passive constructions, and then in raise-in predicates, and then we'll move to WH movement. This way we will have covered the whole program for S5 students. Okay, thank you very much, dear Professor. Marhaba, Si Mustafa Murshid, Barakallahu Fik, Tanta. Thank you so much. Anyway, I wish you a good rest of the weekend. So enjoy tomorrow, inshallah, in preparation for the beginning of the week. So if you have any questions, then you can, send me a private message or post them on the page or post it on the page, and I will be very happy to handle it. So thank you very much, and let's meet on another occasion. Bye bye, everyone. Thank you. And